This is John Raspanti with MaxBoxing.com and Seconds Out. I'm in Ontario, California tonight to witness LaRon Mitchell of San Francisco go for his 11th straight victory. Right now, though, in front of you is Andy Nance, who in the 1980s was the #1 ranked. I think they called you a super lightweight in those days, right, Andy? I think a junior welterweight, super lightweight, right?
Yeah, I like the super lightweight.
I know, super lightweight. I figured you might like that. You were 24-1 in your career.
Yes.
And you were going to get a shot at the title, but unfortunately you had to retire. Now, I was wondering, you're younger than me, like it seems like everybody is. Do you miss the fight game? I mean, the physical part, the competitive part of the game. Do you miss that sometimes, or did you accept that a long time ago and just moved on?
You know, for many years I did. I'm lucky because I get to work in the sport full time right now. But I did for many years. I missed the actual getting in there and doing it, but I finally have come to accept it. It's been like probably a few years now I've come to accept it, and now I'm matchmaking full time, managing a few fighters. LaRon's my main guy, and so I'm working in boxing 7 days a week, full time. So I'm heavily involved in the sport, and I'm very fortunate that way, I guess.
Yeah, because boxing is your passion, right? Because you were in real estate for quite a long time, correct? Because I remember this because I wrote the story about you, and you like that, right? You were all right with that, but it's not like this, is it?
It was okay. I mean, that was something that I had to do because I needed to have a job. So real estate was something I did for like 20 years. I did real estate sales and investments, and I still have my license, but I haven't worked in real estate since 2007. Oh, I see. And that's when I became a full-time matchmaker. Kind of overnight, it happened by accident. I was doing an HBO show up in Tacoma, Washington, and with Gary Shaw, and the main event was Vernon Forrest versus Carlos Baldomir.
Okay.
And so a guy named John Beninati gave me a call and asked me if I could help him make a fight on the undercard, and I did. He said, "Did you like that?" And I said, "Yeah, it was pretty good." He said, "Call me Monday. I've got some more fights you can help me with," and I did that, and then that was it.
Rest is history.
Rest is history.
I want to talk about your career, though, just for a minute, your boxing career for a minute, because, you know, when people, you retired, basically had to retire when you were 25 years old, right? 24,
24, yeah.
24 years old because of an injury sustained in a fight, right?
Right.
And you had no choice. You had to hang up the gloves. Is that correct?
I was forced to retire, yeah.
You were forced to retire. Now,
blessing in disguise, I think, because I'm still talking relatively clearly. I think you can understand me.
No, I can.
And if I had not been forced to retire, I love the sport so much that I'm still in it. I never would have quit. And God knows what happened to me. Really, I look back, I think it was a blessing in disguise. Even though I did not get to win the world title, which was my goal, of course. But I got to be ranked #1 in the world, and I was in a position to fight for the world title.
Yeah.
Now I kind of live through my LaRon, and hopefully he's gonna get a title shot and win that. So my dream is not dead. It's just won't be me getting it and be one of my fighters.
Live vicariously through the fighter, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and that was what I wanted to ask you. The last part about that was being forced to retire like that. Now, there's you said about being able to talk and everything. I know you follow boxing. You and me both love boxing. Obviously, you're in it even more than I am. Yeah. Roy Jones is 47 years old and got brutally knocked out. And I'm sure that is something that you watch and go, "Oh, why doesn't he just retire?"
Right.
You know, that seems to be the question with fighters sometimes, is why can't they just walk away? I used to say that it was because, hey, you try to retire from something you love when you're still young.
Right.
You know, how easy would that be to do? And Roy Jones still loves boxing. Yeah. You had to retire.
Yeah.
And Roy was supposedly retired, and now he's saying, "No, I'm not retired."
Is that right?
Yeah.
I didn't hear that.
So even at 47, it's hard to walk away, isn't it?
I think once you've had some success in the sport of boxing, it's really hard to walk away. It just is. And at a certain point, you're going to get too old, or if you start losing fights. Everybody should retire before that, but nobody ever does. Seldom does somebody retire at the right time. That really happens, as you know.
Really? Do you agree with Carl Froch? He has an idea that guys should not be able to get licensed after they hit a certain age. I think 40. I'm not sure about that. And that's it. You can't fight anymore because the commission should be looking out for the fighter's health.
Right.
Do you agree with that?
Well, that's tough to say because there are some guys, that have been successful at the age of 40.
George Foreman won the heavyweight championship when he was 45 years old.
Bernard Hopkins.
Yamir Mansour.
Yeah, Yamir Mansour. So there's still some people that are successful. I think it's kind of a case-by-case situation. To say you have to retire at the age of 40, everybody a blanket statement, I think it's unfair to some guys that still fight.
Bernard Hopkins, right?
There you go, exactly.
Right.
But maybe they should look a little harder at the guys at 40 or no above.
See how they're fighting.
Look at them and see where their skill levels at.
So the matchmaking thing, you said you got into that in 2007.
Yeah.
And you're dealing with a different type of group here, obviously, from being a boxer. You know, boxing has the reputation for being, as we know, a little slimy, a little corrupt. You're laughing because you know it's true, like I do. So how about in the matchmaking world? I mean, how is that? I mean, you're in the ring throwing punches at guys 20-some years ago, 25. Now you're doing this matchmaking thing. How brutal does that get?
Well, you know, the good thing is that I have a good feel for the game and I understand what's going on. I know excuses when they're legitimate, when they're not legitimate. Haven't been in the game. I know what styles make good fights, who to pair people with, what like we never want to put two counter punches together, put people to sleep. So you know, like at the shows I do in Washington, I always try to make the best, really crowd-pleasing fights, and I try to make the fights as close to 50-50, where both guys got a shot at winning. There's some other promoters, and you know them, where they're first round blowouts, and they're not. You know, I don't do that. I try to make competitive fights where both guys have a pretty fair shot of winning, and that's how I make my fights.
That's the way it should be. Now you do the matchmaking for those the shows on the boat, right? And
Battle of the Boat.
And those are, I always hear that those are really good fights, good competitive, hard hitting.
Yeah.
So do you think the most important job as the matchmaker is to find two guys that are pretty equally matched, so the crowd will get their money's worth, basically?
Well, you know, that's what I try to do. You know, of course, you know, promoters have their fighters and they want to protect them. You know, they want to protect them. So it's that fine line. You want to protect them, but also you want to put them in a fight where they'll learn. If you know, blowing a guy out time and time again in 1 or 2 rounds, you don't learn nothing. You don't get any better. All of a sudden, you're 10-0 or 12-0, 15-0, and you haven't fought, you know, past 1 or 2 rounds with a lot of guys, and then next thing you know, you're going to fight a guy that can take you into the deep water. You're in trouble. So
you haven't really tested yet.
Yeah, there's some guys with 500 records that are really, you know, better than some of these undefeated fighters.
So of all the guys, all the fighters nowadays, I mean, I know you're like me, you know, we're from the Bay Area. We love Andre Ward because he's such a technician and he's so good. And even as a journalist, I can say I appreciate his talent so much.
Yeah.
Who is your favorite fighter to watch? I mean, who's a fighter that you
besides Andre?
Besides Andre, who you won't miss?
I really like the flyweight Chocolito.
Oh yeah, Ramon Gonzalez.
I think that guy's amazing.
Technically, he's incredible.
I think he's absolutely amazing. I like Triple G, of course.
Oh yeah.
And I like Kovalev, the guy Andre's supposed to fight
in November.
Yeah, and that's a tough one because I know Andre personally. I like Andre a lot, and Kovalev, I don't know him, but I just like him. I like his style and everything. Because I know Andre, of course, I'm going to be rooting for Andre if and when they fight, and that's going to be by far his toughest fight, in my opinion. And he's fought a lot of great guys and beat them. But I think that's going to be his toughest fight. But Andre has a way of pulling the magic trick out of his hat and coming up with a win somehow, some way.
He's a very smart fighter. You know, he adapts to things. Yeah, that is supposed to be. They got a tentative date on November 19th. I heard of, and that probably will be in Oakland.
Really?
That's what I'm hearing.
That's great.
That's a can't misser. We will be there, the two of us.
For sure.
Yeah, I'm thinking the same thing, that is a fight that's going to be such an interesting fight because you've got the Crusher who can box more than people realize, and then Andre Ward who's got a lot of sting on his punches. He can't knock people out like the Crusher. But he, you know, if you saw him against Edwin Rodriguez here in Ontario, he just does things that these guys don't expect. You know, they get hit with these jabs, and you can see they're like, where did that come from?
Yeah, exactly.
So it's a great matchup. And so who would you give the edge to in that fight? I mean, I know you like Andre personally, but it's a 50-50 fight?
Well, you know, the thing is also Andre's been off a little bit. You know, it's you have when Andre was on, when he was on hit, when he was fighting all the time, you know, I would definitely would have given him the edge because he always seems to figure out a way to pull out the win. What the inactivity's done to him, we really don't know yet. It's kind of unknown. I hopefully it hasn't done anything to him, and he's going to figure out a way to beat Kovalev. But I know it's going to be a tough fight. Kovalev also is incredibly strong as well.
He is.
He can box, but his strength is just he's superhuman strength.
He is a crusher.
He is a crusher. Yeah, that nickname is a correct nickname for him.
Totally accurate. Now, for a minute here, and I'm going to let you go because I know you're getting ready to get Laurent in there. Tell me a little bit. I mean, Laurent, He's a great guy. He's a teacher too, and soft-spoken, big man who can punch, obviously, with 10 fights, 10 knockouts.
Yes.
You're moving him along at a good speed. He's having a lot of fights, fighting pretty frequently. Now, that's how they used to do it in our day, where fighters would fight quite a bit, every couple of months. Is that what you prefer to do with him?
Absolutely. I'm definitely more of an old school kind of a thinker when it comes to both training and fighting. I think that I like to spar more than 3 days a week.
Yeah.
I like to get out and run the hills as opposed to getting into the gym and doing center masters and stuff like that. I just like more of an old school, old way of thinking of training. And I like to fight as often as possible. So that's what we're going to do, and get to 15, 16-0, and then we're going to go after a name guy and hopefully do like a show box or a HBO After Dark kind of show, and we're going to go for it. And hopefully that's going to be later on this year.
Oh, sounds good. Do you think that we're going to get Laurent in the city at some point, maybe fighting in San Francisco in his hometown?
That's possible. That would be probably later on this year or maybe next year. I'm going to talk about that with Thompson Boxing, who's our
Thompson
promoter.
Boxing,
great promoter. They've been fantastic to us, and thank you, Alex and
they're great.
Thompson. They've been fantastic and been with us all the way. And so we have quite a few things along this line we're talking about, but we actually have 6 fights scheduled between now and August. And after that, then we're going to go do the HBO After Dark or Showtime, something like that, and go for a name fighter. And we're going to go for it.
Okay, that's great. This is Andy Nance standing in front of me, former #1 ranked super lightweight fighter, boxer. I remember seeing him on ESPN, which is really interesting to be talking to him now. We've known each other for years. And tonight, his fighter, Laurent Mitchell, is going for victory number 11. This is John Raspanti with Max Boxing and Seconds Out saying good night.